And today's how-to video is going to be on...
It's me! Uncle Andy!
What do you want? I'm making a video here.
Oh, you're making the video? I'm sorry.
What do you want?
I need this blade to get sharper.
This blade? Blade is garbage. It's all wore out.
How can you tell? That was my best blade.
Well, I guess today's video is going to be on lawnmower blades and chainsaw chains. When to replace or sharpen.
Well, how am I gonna know? You threw it way over there.
I guess you're going to be in the video now because I'm going to school you on chainsaw chains and lawnmower blades.
Oh, okay, great. Let's see what you got.
Andy, this blade needs to be replaced. It's all wore out.
What? I thought that it was good. It just needs a little touch-up.
This is all wore away right here, Andy.
That's how it came.
No, it's not supposed to look like that. And this is all rounded and all chipped and nicked and worn out. Don't you see on this blade here how this part is all clean and this is all covered with grass? That's because this is the part of the blade that actually does the cutting of the grass.
Just that little tiny strip.
That's right. And then when it cuts the grass, it throws it in the air, and as it falls down, it cuts it again, because this is a mulching blade. That's why it's all curved like that.
Oh, okay.
So this blade basically needs to be replaced. Here's what your blade should look like. See?
Wow, look at that.
Yeah, see how much is all wore away?
Wow.
This is what your blade looked like when it was new.
What would cause that to happen?
Sand and dirt.
Okay.
It just wears it away. That sand and dirt is an abrasive. And when you're spinning this thing very fast, it's kicking up all that dirt and dust, and it just wears the metal away. Now, if you had a thick, healthy, lush lawn like on a golf course, then your blades last a lot longer. But when you have a sparse lawn and you have a lot of dirt and a lot of dust, this is the result. This is what happens.
Oh, I gotcha. So, this paint on here, that's not really sharp. Is that still gonna cut?
Yes, it'll cut. This is a powder coating that they put on some blades. Not all blades have this on it. But the first probably 5 minutes that you use it, if you pick up your lawnmower and look, this powder coat would all be wore off, and then this will be sharp. Now, we do have a lot of people that want us to sharpen that, even though that's already sharp. You could do that if you want, but it doesn't really have to be that sharp to cut. Because it doesn't actually cut the grass, it whips it. The only lawnmower that actually cuts grass is a reel mower. And if you know what a reel mower is, it's got a reel on it, and it actually scissors the grass. These rotary mowers, they just whip it. If you take a blade of grass and look at it after you cut it, and look at the edge of it real close, it's all jagged. It's not cut clean. It's whipped.
Okay. What's that blade?
This is what's called a Gator Mulcher blade or copperhead blade. They come under a bunch of different names. But the reason behind it is as it cuts the grass, it sends it through the lift, which grinds it up even finer.
Oh, so it's like chomping like an alligator.
That's right. So these are real popular blades now. They work really well. But again, this blade is all wore out too. It needs to be replaced. It can't be sharpened. Now this is all rounded here. Now you could sharpen this blade again, and it would probably cut for a while, but then it's going to dull out, and then it's going to start leaving a strip, especially on a lawnmower that's got 2 or more blades. And when they have 2 or more blades, you know, they got to work together. So what happens is as they dull and round off, they generally start to leave a strip of grass right between where the 2 blades meet. Now, if you got a rotary push mower and you got a blade that's pretty worn like this, you only got 1 blade on it. So if you sharpen a blade like this, it'll probably cut again. It'll probably still keep cutting. But usually when it gets rounded like this and you resharpen it, it doesn't stay sharp very long on a riding mower. And then you may get a couple of cuts out of it, and then it'll start leaving a strip again on a riding mower.
Okay.
So this blade, as you could tell, had been sharpened a few times. You can see how much material is missing here. It still has most of its lift, but the lift is getting thin. So eventually that's just going to wear off. So this blade should probably be replaced. Plus the edge is rounded on it. So if you did sharpen it, it would last a while. You'd probably get a few mowings out of it before it would start leaving a strip again.
Is that a high lift blade?
Yes, this blade has got a big higher lift on it, which is generally used for bagging. You want a high lift blade for bagging.
Oh, what about a low lift blade?
A low lift blade, the lift would be a lot shallower on here. It wouldn't be at this degree, but it would still have some lift to stand up the grass. So yes, there's many different types and styles of blades for many different mowers. You know, you may have a mower and you may want to put these blades on there, but they may not be available for that mower you have. So you have to look into all that stuff.
Oh, I thought there was just one blade that went on everything.
Well, they do make a universal blade that you can put, adapt to many mowers, but again, it's still going to have a lift on it.
Can I put a 22-inch blade on my 20-inch mower?
Sure, you could do that. If you got a rotary mower that's just 20 inches or 22 inches and you can put a 20-inch blade on there, it'll work.
But I have a 20-inch deck and I want to put a 22 blade on.
No, that ain't gonna work. It's
Why?
22 inches long.
What if I chop it down?
Well, if you do that, you gotta balance the blade.
What if I don't want to balance it?
Well, then it could shake if you cut, 2 inches off of the blade.
Ooh, shake sounds good.
Why don't you just put the right blade on there, Andy?
Oh,
Then
okay.
you won't have to worry about that.
I'll take that one.
No, this blade is garbage.
Oh, okay.
Now this blade, Andy, is still pretty square here on the end. So that's what you want. You want a nice square edge, because this very edge of the blade is going to do a lot of the cutting. And you want a sharp corner. You don't want it rounded. Even though you can sharpen a rounded corner, it'll last for a while, but eventually it's going to start leaving a strip again. So this blade here could probably be sharpened again and used.
Can't you just sharpen this other side?
Well, yeah, you could sharpen that other side, but how is that going to cut? You'd have to flip the blade over.
Can't you just flip it over like that?
No, because now the lift is down. See, you need the lift to be up. Now, we get this a lot. A lot of people will put the blade on upside down and not know it. And then they'll complain that it doesn't cut very well. It's like, yeah, because the blade's on upside down. They don't realize that, yes, it has to go on a certain way. Now, some mowers, you can flip the blade over. It does have 2 cutting edges on it, but that's kind of rare. But most blades are like this. And the lift has to go up.
Okay.
And then there's some mowers you can't. They're idiot proof. You can only put the blade on one way. It won't let you put it on an opposite way because it would be formed, have a certain form on here or a hub that it has to fit into, and it would only go on that one way.
Oh, that's the mower I need.
But yes, we do get a lot of people that put the lawnmower blade on upside down and it doesn't cut well. So you always got to remember that the lift has to go up. Some blades even used to stamp on their grass side. So you knew that, that side was the grass.
That's pretty smart.
But when you've done this as long as I have, you pretty much know which way it goes. You want the lift up towards the bottom of the deck. Or like in a lot of cases where the sticker is, I'll tell them, a lot of these blades got a sticker like this one did. I'll tell them, sticker up. If you can see the sticker when you're putting the nut on, you got it on upside down.
Okay. So, replace, sharpen.
That's right, on a riding mower.
Brand new.
Like I said, on a push mower or rotary mower, where that doesn't have two blades that have to work together, you can generally get away with sharpening blades as long as they're not too bad.
Oh, wow.
All right, well, I hope that answered all your questions to when to sharpen or when to replace a lawnmower blade.
I don't remember now.
Got anything else?
Can I get this blade? On second thought, I don't want this blade. I want this one for my 21-inch. Is that good?
Yeah, this is a good blade. This blade can be sharpened.
But it's all clean right here.
Well, that's because that's part of the blade that's actually doing the cutting of the grass. That's why it's clean like that.
But that's not all worn out.
No, this isn't wore out. It's got a nice square edge to it here. So this blade can just be sharpened. You can just sharpen it.
Okay, sharpen it.
All right. Well, Andy, I hope that answered all your questions on when to replace or when to sharpen a lawnmower blade. You have any more questions?
Yeah. Can I ask you a question?
No.
Can I ask you a more smarter question?
All right, try.
What about this?
Chainsaw change?
How do I know when to sharpen and replace this?
All right, let me take a look at this here. Looks like somebody tried to sharpen it themselves, and they didn't do a very good job. They ruined it.
What?
Did you do that?
I did my best sharpening job on that.
Then why are you bringing it to me?
I wanted you to check my work.
Well, you didn't do a good job. You ruined this chain. It's ruined.
Oh,
Now I gotta tell you how and when to sharpen or replace a chainsaw change?
yeah.
Well, unlike a lawnmower blade, a chainsaw change, you're gonna know when it's dull because it's gonna start throwing sawdust. And then you're gonna know that's when it's time to either get it sharpened. But in order to know when to replace it is how many times it's been sharpened. So this is the tooth right here. This is what does the cutting of the wood. Another problem I see is sometimes people will put the chain on backwards. So just like a blade that you can put on upside down, a chainsaw chain you can put on backwards, and that's not going to cut too well. So just always remember that the tooth is going to be facing the cutter here with the angle on it. The tooth is going to be facing forward. This is how chainsaw chains cut. They go forward on the bar. So if you're standing behind the saw, you want that angle facing forward. And surprisingly, a lot of people don't know that. Now you can see this tooth here. There's a lot of metal left. So this thing can be sharpened quite a few times. Another thing is, as you sharpen it, this part here in the front, they call it a rake or a depth gauge. This determines how much of the tooth is going to cut the wood. So as the chain is being sharpened back and the tooth is getting smaller, a lot of times you have to take some off of the depth gauge or the rake. So you could take a chain in and have it sharpened and it still doesn't cut right. That's because that rake is too high, or that depth gauge, and it's not letting the sharp part of the tooth grab the wood, because this is what grabs the wood right here. This is what does the cutting, this corner of the tooth. And then you may have a problem with, say, it cutting crooked. Well, a lot of that could be if this angle and this angle aren't ground at the right angle. So say you take it somewhere to have it sharpened, if they sharpen this side, because you got a left and a right cutter. See that? See how this one's this way, this one's that way? If they're sharpened at different angles, that's going to make this thing cut crooked in the wood. You're not going to get a straight cut. It's going to cut at an angle. Another thing that'll make it cut on an angle is if you got a bunch of broken teeth. So you need to inspect your chain. You need to go around and look and see if you have any teeth that are missing.
How many broken teeth can I get away with?
You can get away with a couple, but if you got a couple, 2 or more on the same side in a row, like if this one was broke and this one was broke and this one was broke, now you got 3 right-hand cutters that are doing most of the cutting because you're missing 3 of the left-hand cutters. So when that happens, it's going to make it cut crooked because one side is cutting faster or more than the other side. So you want to inspect your chain. Make sure all the teeth are there, none of them are broken off. But if you got a couple broken off in different spots, that's fine. That's usually because you hit something that was buried in the wood. Another thing you want to look at on a chain is the driver, the part on the bottom. This is the driver. This is what drives the chain. You want to make sure it looks like that. Nice and pointy. If you've got these that are all rounded off on the bottom, your clutch drum on your chainsaw has got a groove war in it. And your clutch drum may need to be replaced because that's another wear item. So you need to inspect your drivers and your teeth. If they're all wore out on the bottom, you may still have plenty of tooth left, but sharpening it is the least of your problems because it may not pull because these drivers are all rounded off or worn out. Another thing that happens is if you let the chain get loose on a saw and you don't keep it tight and it jumps off, it'll usually nick these drivers up. They'll get burrs on them.
What if the chain stretches?
If the chain stretches, depending on where you take your chains to be sharpened, you can take a link out of it. We do that a lot here, but a lot of shops won't do that. Some won't take a link out, but we do. So the chain is still good, still got a lot of tooth left, but the chain is stretched out. You reach the end of your travel on your bar adjustment. You can take a driver out and shorten it up one. And that'll give you more adjustment again. Then you can keep using the chain. And that usually happens because you've tried to cut with the saw, with the chain, and the chainsaw when the chain was dull, and that builds up a lot of heat, and then heat friction causes expansion, and then the chain stretches. Usually if you're cutting dirty wood or if you're cutting in the dirt roots or you're hitting the ground, that'll cause the chain to stretch because it'll get hot or if it's dull. But some shops will take out a link. We do it here, and then you can keep using that chain if you want to save it. But those are things to look for on a chainsaw chain, when to replace it or when to sharpen it. Now the reason a lot of shops don't want to take a link out of a chain is because it changes the pitch of the chain, and the pitch is the distance between here and here. So think about this. As the chain is stretching, it's getting longer, so you're changing that pitch. And when you change the pitch, that's going to affect the clutch drum, that's going to affect the spur on the end of the bar. But some people don't care, so they want a link taken out. So, hey, you don't care, I don't care. I'll take a link out. You want a link taken out? Or you can buy a new chain. But that's something to be aware of. When you start taking links out of chains, it's stretched out, so you're going to change that pitch. So you may have a problem with it when you're pulling on the chain or when it's spinning on there. Could wear out the sprocket on your bar, you can wear out your clutch drum faster. So this is what a new clutch drum looks like. And this is called a Spur Drum because this has got this spur on it. Now what's going to happen over time, which is natural, it's normal for this to happen, those drivers will wear into here. Now, it's when they get wore in there real deep is when it starts to ruin the drivers. It's got to have real deep grooves in there. So if you have mild grooves in there, yours is fine. Generally, the way you can tell is if you spin this by hand, and you should wear gloves when you do this, it should spin nice and smooth. If it's kind of hard to spin, or it kind of is tough and it kind of makes like clinking or chunking noises, that's because the drivers are wearing real deep into the grooves, and it's causing it to wear them out. So that's something you need to check on your chainsaw. And then this is a different style drum. This is called a rim sprocket. This part is replaceable. So if you have a saw that has this type of drum on it with this, all you have to do is buy this part when it wears out. You don't have to buy the whole drum and everything. When this wears out, you got to buy the whole drum. Now I don't have any examples of any ones that are worn out because I throw them away because they're wore out. So I don't have any. I hope that answers any questions you may have had about when to replace or sharpen chainsaw chains or lawnmower blades. So this is me, Taryl Fixes All. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. This is Uncle Andy.
How you doing? It's me, Uncle Andy.
He's not anybody's real uncle. Follow us. Can you do this?
Oh.
Follow us on Facebook and Instagram.
Oh.
Go to our web store, buy some Taryl Apparel and some other stuff we got there. Do we got any Uncle Andy stuff?
Not yet, but maybe you could check out my baseball card shop, The Blade.
And as always, there's your dinner. Woo! When to replace or sharpen chainsaw chains and lawnmower blades. Lawnmower blades and chainsaw chains.
Ooh, yeah. Woo.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention. Check out my videos on how to sharpen a lawnmower blade. And I also got a video on how to identify the different types of chainsaw chains. And I've got videos on sharpening chainsaw chains. So check out those videos on my channel.